When we finally got in front of a doctor to do a pregnancy, to do the sperm analysis and then my full blood workup, the very pregnant stand-in OB told me, "You have no sperm, so this is not going to work." And that was a huge moment for both of us.
First of all, Erin, thank you so much for jumping on so last minute. And I thought it was very pertinent because you're having an event coming up very soon. But before we get into that, it's like, well, why are we here? What's the problem that we want to address? And how do we want to guide people? And so, we are looking at multiple things. Yes, there's the trying to conceive journey. And then there's also during pregnancy and then postpartum, like all of that. I mean, really up until after menopause, like really a transition of life for women from start to finish. We need help. And that's why we're here. And we're grateful for you to join us today to share your wisdom and what you have created out of your own personal journey. So I guess we'll start with your fertility journey and then we'll go from there. Okay? Does that sound fair? And maybe I'll let you basically introduce yourself and how you came to be, how we met. We'll just preface by you had a 10-year long journey to try to conceive, which is insane. So we're going to ask you lots of questions, and I'm sure people are like, how the hell do you persevere something like that, and why do you not give up? So that would be great insight. So I'll just kind of pass the floor to you if that's okay, and we'll jump in. Dr. Tanya and I will just jump in and ask some questions in between. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Mary. And first of all, just thanks so much for having me on. I'm so glad that this worked out this morning. Such a pleasure to be here in this space with you both. I want to just start, and I'm going to come back to your questions, but something just came to mind as you said that. And in our fertility space and in the communities that we're creating right now, where we're talking a lot about our fertility stories and our journeys, there comes this natural want to compare. You had a 10-year story. Oh, my story's only 4 years or 5 years. Wow, But every fertility story, every fertility hardship, every fertility journey is hard right from the first negative pregnancy test that you ever get. And so I just don't want to downplay anybody's journey that was 2 years or 5 years or, I know people who've been on this journey for 12 years and are still going or have done 10 rounds of IVF. And I only did 2 rounds, It gets so easy to compare the journeys. And I just want to honor everybody on their journey, wherever they are, if they're listening today, and make sure that they know, wherever you are, if you're on your first IUI or if you're, just had your first negative pregnancy test and you're like, am I ever going to get pregnant? Just stay the course, because the journey is the journey for you. And that's the most important thing.
Thank you for addressing that for sure. And I just want to catch what you just said. Only 2 IVFs. It's like, hello. It's a lot. To do an IVF, to do an IUI, to go through this journey where, you think that, gosh, you just try once in your bedroom or, on the kitchen counter, whatever, wherever it would be, that it would just be easy. And it's not necessarily so for 1 in 6. So it's like insanity, right?
Yeah. 2 IVFs don't mean just 2 IVFs. There's the story behind that led to the 2 IVFs.
Yeah. So let me tell that story. For me and my partner, we were young when we started trying in our late 20s, and we just decided, hey, we've been married for 5 years, and we wanted to start trying to have a family. And my sister and I were going to start trying at the same time. It was this big, exciting thing. And that's where it started. And it was about a 2-year process of just figuring out if we should go for extra testing or if we should just kind of wait it out and see. We did all the, as much at-home testing as we possibly could do. We were moving overseas at the time, so there was more complicated just life things going on that didn't allow us to just get right in to see a fertility clinic or a doctor. And I was young, and everybody in both of our families had a lot of success having pregnancies and babies, and so we never even thought that there would be an issue. So then, when we finally got in front of a doctor to do a pregnancy, to do the sperm analysis and then my full blood workup, the very pregnant stand-in OB told me, "You have no sperm, so this is not going to work." And that was a huge moment for both of us. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't
So
even
that's where,
imagine, right?
yeah,
Like you're trying and there's like nothing.
yeah.
Nothing. It's
And
like zero
imagine
possibility.
that message being delivered by this incredibly pregnant person was
Oh,
like just one of, it's like you get all these wild things that happen on your journey that you're just like, what are the chances of that being part of it? But that, I mean, that made it harder. It was triggering even from that moment. um I remember getting in my car and crying all the way home, like, how is this possible? How is this, going to be our story? And I was like, death before IVF. That was like my motto back then when I was taking so long, because even in those first couple of years when you're just trying, you go through all of the thoughts, oh, if this doesn't work, then maybe this, then maybe that. You think about all of the potential pathways that you can take. And I was like, I'm never doing IVF. I just thought I never want to have to go through that. So the fact that we ended up, you just eventually take the steps that you have to take to get to where you want to go. And at that moment, for my partner and I, we took a long, hard think about where we wanted to go next. We got a referral to the fertility clinic, which took a few months for us to get in with the doctor there. And we both decided, let's take some time and really just think about our life and our future. And we both took a solid, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks at a time. And we decided for the next month, we're just going to think about our life with no kids and try and imagine that life and try and imagine our future with no kids, and just kind of like be in that space, and everything we, think about the future, no kids, and just see how that makes us feel, see how that, feels on the inside, it feels for the future. And then we did the same thing again for another whole month, just thinking about our life with kids and how does that make us feel, and what was really the projection that either one of us could see. Because we also thought, like, if we're thinking different things here, then there's another conversation, right? And so we had the hard conversations. We thought about our life one way or the other way, and we both agreed, like, we could not picture our life without children in it. And so that was the moment we decided we're in this, and we're going to just go down this road, and wherever it takes us, we will journey together. And that was so 8 years later, after a bunch of rounds of IUI. I think we did 4 IUIs and then proceeded to do 2 rounds of IVF. My husband had surgery multiple times to try and make him make sperm and try and get to the bottom of what was going on with that. And it turned out to just be a weird genetic abnormality where his sperm don't fully mature, so they can never actually get out. They ended up finding usable sperm through surgery to get to try and use for the couple rounds of IVF that we did, but we never ended up with a live embryo that we could use for a transfer with his genetic DNA. So we ended up with donor sperm, and our son, who just turned 2, is a donor embryo baby. So yeah.
Well, and when you just mention it so quickly and casually, I can just imagine, or can't even begin to imagine, the process of surrendering to donor sperm. That must have been a process in of itself, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we talked around the different options that we have, not having sperm in our situation. We thought about potentially donor embryos, because that's an option we could have taken. And I thought, well, if we're getting donor sperm, we might as well have a donor egg as well, and then it would be sort of coming from both sides, so adopting embryos. We talked about adopting children instead of going down the route of IVF. And at the end of the day, my partner was pretty adamant that he wanted me to be pregnant. He wanted to see me go through that experience. He didn't want to, have any part in, and it was never his fault taking anything away. It's not, the situation is just what it is. It could have been either one of us that had the issue. And in fact, I think I have an egg quality issue too, just based on the results that we had through the whole thing. So it takes two, and so, yeah, I think you're right. Definitely.
Before we talk more about the donor sperm, because I have questions about that, I want to comment how amazing you guys are. You sound like a power couple in that you were able to pause and take that moment for a month and just say, okay, let's picture our lives without children. Okay, now let's take a month and picture our lives with children, because that's a hard activity to do, and you spent enough time doing it. Was it like a intentional thing? Like you're like, okay, let's do this activity. Was it recommended? Or like, how did you guys decide to do like a month of processing those 2 thoughts? Like, I just think that's very powerful.
Yeah, we had the space to process because of our the wait that we had to before we could get it, even with the fertility clinic, to find out what the next step would be. And I think we both tried to not have conversations we didn't have to have. So we didn't even talk about donor sperm until we decided if we wanted to move forward having children. We didn't even talk about the things that, were going to happen. We didn't even talk about IVF until it was recommended that we do IVF, to then see, where we would land with that. I think for me, I'm a huge planner. I love planning ahead. I love the future. I love looking ahead of our life. But those conversations, trying to keep them as minimal as possible, just to try and both stay in the same space at the same time. But it's so hard. It's so easy to get ahead of one another, or one person be over here and there. I'm a huge believer in communication and strong communication. It's what I studied in university. It's what I really believe that is like very important. And so in every relationship that I have, you can ask my mom, you can ask my best friend, like communication is so important to me. And so in my marriage too, I find that it is helpful to just have the conversations you have to have and try and separate the rest, because it just allows you to, there's a saying, I don't even know where the quote comes from, but it's just make sure you have enough light for the step that you're on and enough light for the next step, but don't get too far down the path without addressing what's in the here and now, and try and just stay in this time so that you can then take the correct steps to move forward and just try and stay as close as possible with those.
Yeah, it's so easy to pummel forward kind of just based on a goal, like must have children, without even pausing to think like, do you want children and how passionately, or is it an option to have a life without children? And so and my question about sperm is, how did you decide to just like choose getting a sperm donor versus the embryo, getting like an embryo donor? And did you go down the embryo donation path, like to see what that looked like?
Yeah, I did a bit of research into the costing of that in comparison to the cost of IVF, or the cost of just doing IUIs with donor sperm. So obviously cost is a big factor when you're looking at anything in the assisted reproductive therapy space, right? Because it's all comes at a cost. So we definitely looked at those things. The sperm donor IUIs we thought would be the easiest way to get pregnant, because I'd never been pregnant, but there's no history of, people having a trouble getting pregnant in my family. And so we just thought, well, we'll just do IUIs with donor sperm, and then that'll be it. We won't even have to go through IVF. We'll just do that. And so it was really my partner's decision. I wanted it to be his decision, especially because it's that side of it that was missing. I was good with whatever we ended up doing, but we both ended up choosing a donor together. It's kind of a funny process if you've ever done it or looked into it. It's kind of like going on a big old Facebook profile and digging through, history and medical history and genetic history. For people that don't know, listening, who don't know the process, most of our sperm comes from the US, because it's actually illegal to buy and sell sperm in Canada. So there are some donor banks here, but they have to be gifted. So most of our sperm is imported from the US. So there's a number of large sperm banks that are great to deal with. And so we found one where we could see both adult photos and child photos, so that we could see sort of where the genetics matched as closely as possible. And that's how we made our decision. And then we did 4 IUIs that ended up over the course of 1 year, and ended up with no positive pregnancy tests ever. So then I was like, oh, here we go. That's where they recommended at my age. I was over 35. Actually, I was just pushing 35 at the time. And they said, we should probably move on to IVF. This isn't going to work.
So how long did you do that for, the IUI, before you moved on to IVF?
Yeah, so the IUIs we did over the course of 1 year. So I did one, and the moment it failed, I was like, oh no. So I went and started to see my naturopath here. She has a program called How to Make a Baby Without the Crazy. And it's really great. It just helps you sort of navigate how not to feel like you're going crazy when you're trying to control this whole baby making experience outside of the body, essentially outside of the bedroom, right? We're doing it in a lab. We're doing it on a cold metal table. It's not personal. It's, you don't know the person who's putting this donor sperm inside of your body. It's not a personal experience at all. And yeah, she was amazing in just helping me navigate my own personal mental health, but also physical health with acupuncture. We did a lot of different vitamin treatments and that kind of thing, just because I'm like, okay, I need to create a perfect period now so that my body is ready to receive this human eventually when it comes. So yeah, I took it on myself at that point. I'm like, all of a sudden, okay, this is a me thing now. It's something I can do, I can contribute, I can control. And yeah, so it was hard. It was really hard. We took some big breaks in that period of time, because I just wanted like the best egg quality I could get. And when we only have 4 shots at this, we bought 4 vials of the donor sperm. And I just wanted to give it, the best possible chance of working.
So you alluded to a couple of very important things here, to keep, how do we keep the eye on the ball when you both have agreed that this is non-negotiable, we're going to have a baby somehow through your belly, right? So you said 1, keeping your communication open and well with your partner. 2, to actually get outside help to optimize your egg quality. So doing, supplements and acupuncture. And 3, it's like, how do we keep our mental health going? So that's a big one too. And what I love it that you said that, going to the naturopath and getting acupuncture did provide that for you. So how else did you persevere? Like, what else kept you going through this journey? Because it was long.
It was long. Yeah. We took big breaks of time. We really love to travel. My partner's from Australia. And so we had a few nice long visits to visit his family. We went on a couple different cruises over those 10 years. And every time we would travel, the doctor would make us take a 3-month break because of the Zika virus that was I think it still is an issue. I don't know, because COVID's kind of taken the ranks. But we used to take big breaks. And in those periods of time, we would do things that we couldn't necessarily do if we were to have a baby right now, like go to music festivals and concerts. And you can still do those things if you have a baby, but in that time of our life, we were feeling like it made us feel better if we said, oh, we couldn't do this if we had a baby right now. So let's do those things that we can just make us feel like it's better. Life is better without kids right now, even though it was what we both so deeply desired. So big breaks was definitely helpful, going on vacations and just doing things for us that matter to us. And then, community and support. And that's where I found a support group. One of my best friends started a support group locally that I got the opportunity to be a part of after that first failed IUI. I was like, okay, I'm coming to support group. And she'd already been running it for a few months. And I was like, I don't need this community. I'm good. I'm going to get pregnant on my first try. And then as soon as it failed, I was like, Emily, when is the support group? I'm coming. I'll be there. I'll be there yesterday. And then I basically never left. I went I would say almost every single month from then. And I think it was probably for about 6 years until we actually had our positive pregnancy test.
And this is why you're here, because not only were you a person that went to a support group and starting off with thinking, I don't need a support group. I don't want a support group. To now, what are you doing now? Let's tell everybody.
Yeah. So now we're trying to grow the largest support group network across Canada, where we can have a peer-led support group in every major city in this country, where people who are experiencing infertility or who are pregnant after infertility or postpartum after infertility can find community and support in a support group. And the word support group, and I've been thinking about this week, Mary, even just since our conversation last week. And support is such an interesting word, and it definitely says community, but it also says, people building one another up. It says, something's not there and you need to be supported, right? We think of a bra and the support that can provide, right? Okay.
But not everybody likes bras, though.
That's true. But some things need more support than others, right? Support comes in all different shapes and sizes. So I think the support that we're trying to grow doesn't just exist in a space that's person-to-person community. We're also creating online support spaces. and other things. We're creating support just through wearing one of our pineapple hoodies and wearing that to your IVF transfer, to know that there's a whole community of pineapple people with the pineapple symbol that are also going through this journey. I think the whole idea is so that people know that they're not alone, because it does feel like a very lonely, very hard journey. And so just knowing that you're not alone, whether you need that peer-to-peer, support, or whether you need that, just the t-shirt that makes you feel like there's other people here with me. Those are my people, or just maybe it's the online support that's important. But I think at the end of the day, wherever we can provide community and support, we're here for that. Oasis which is the organization.
I love it. And it's called Oasis Fertility Support Network. But we want to, again, have you understand what it is, because it's not just about trying to conceive. It's also because some support groups, once you get pregnant, they kick you out.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, no, we're going to have a separate group so that people that are now pregnant, who have whole host of other worries, they get to be together and share their host of worries. And then even after that, once you have the kid, oh my gosh, that's like for the rest of your life. And like, there's a whole other can of worms that we need to deal with. So postpartum support is so critical. And I love that it's based on a conversation of the people with one common thread of, I've had a bit of difficulty trying to conceive. So
a bit or a lot.
Or a bit or
and
a
then
lot.
And then how does that play in the postpartum period? There may be higher incidence of postpartum anxiety, fear, like of the SIDS, like the sudden infant death syndrome. Probably people are like, it's normal and natural for most women to have that. I think it escalates with women who have struggled to conceive for obvious reasons, right?
Yes.
It gets amazing. Yeah. That you guys are offering that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like Mary said, we actually do kick people out when they become pregnant. We graduate them into a pregnancy group. We kick them out of our infertility group just because we know a pregnancy announcement is one of the most triggering things for somebody who's going through infertility. And so we say, we're excited when you get pregnant, and please talk to your conversation starter. That's what we call all of our group leaders. Let them know we'd be excited for you, and graduate you into the pregnancy virtual group, where you'll get the additional support that you need on the pregnancy journey with somebody who's been there before, somebody who's been pregnant after infertility, who's leading the group. So all of our groups are led by people who've been there, people who have gone through fertility treatment to some level. And then our postpartum, all of the people leading our groups are on the other side of their fertility journey, and they are ready to support others going through it. And so that is, that's our prerequisite for anybody who wants to lead a group, is you just got to be through it and ready to support others. It's a way of giving back to that community that got you your baby,
And this supportive community is positive, right? So there's a fear that people are like, oh my gosh, it could be going down this bad rabbit hole of negativity. Well, in this kind of peer supported environment, you train them in a way that we're only allowing positivity. Is that correct? Do you want to speak more to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And so our leadership team, who's all of our conversation starters, we've developed a guidebook for them so that they're getting some training and support from our side, from sort of the leadership of the Oasis organization, to help them understand how to keep a conversation positive, how to keep people engaged. We have a training meeting once a month with all of our conversation starters so that they can bring questions to our team and talk about, fears or struggles in their support group, and just have a place to sort of work through those things as well, so that it keeps it a safe place for everybody attending. That's one of our most important things, is just making sure that space and support group remains a safe place for everybody who's attending. It's so key. It's so important to us. And so we will guard that with everything that we can, to make sure that space remains positive and safe and hopeful and warm and comfortable.
And as you say that, I do want to add in, because it's not kicking anyone out. It's about, as you had mentioned, graduating. So going on to something new, a next chapter, and nothing negative around that. Now, why don't you tell us the logistics? Because right now you said it's, I think it's every third Monday of the month. Is that correct? So
that's right. Yeah. So all of our support groups happen on the third Monday of every month at 7:30 p.m. We have 4 virtual groups currently, one for infertility, one for secondary infertility. So that would be for anybody who's already had a live birth or a child through after infertility or even naturally, but is now having to go through infertility for the second child. Even if it's a second round of IVF for the second child, it's all secondary infertility. So we have a separate group for them, which we think is going to be really key and important for the people that are in that space. We
That
also have
that's virtual though, right? That one?
It's virtual. Yeah.
Okay.
So our 4 virtual groups are infertility, secondary infertility, pregnancy, and postpartum. And then all of our in-person groups, which our locations are listed on our website if you're listening. And there are new locations popping up every month. So keep checking back. If you attend our virtual group, we are always talking about our new and operating in-person groups. But we currently have 4 groups, and our most recent one, which is happening at Miss Mary Wong's clinic, which we're so excited about partnering with you for that.
Yes. So this new one, so it'll be next Monday, 7:30 p.m. at Alive. Susanna Dracul, who Tanya also knows, is leading the live in-person support group. So super thrilled that she's going to be doing this for everyone. And just to be clear, it is national. So let's say, Vancouver's in the mix. Is it 7:30 p.m. local times?
Local time.
Okay.
Correct.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so you can go to myfertology.com, and we're going to post the link to Oasis Fertility Support Network. And again, it's not only fertility based. It's fertility and pregnancy and postpartum. Okay. Anything else you want to add? Any insights that you want to share? Last couple of insights, because we want to keep you on, and this will roll into the next podcast with regards to how do we keep the sexy on during this trying journey, as well as into postpartum.
Yeah. No, the only thing I would add is for the people who are going through fertility, just ask as many questions as you can muster and listen to your heart and advocate for yourself as much as possible, because it's so hard. You're in this space and it's scary at the beginning. Find people who've been there before, who get it. And just ask as many questions and advocate as much as possible for yourself, for your body, and for your family.
Thank you so much. And if you haven't already, listen or watch the interview we did with Sasha Hannum, and she was going through her story about stillbirth and how she went through her journey. And she said, as you said, community is key, right? So please go and check that out again. And certainly if you're watching us through YouTube, subscribe and like and follow us and what else do we need to do with that, right? And but we're at myfertology. You can find us on Instagram. You can call us at Alive. And again, the links, all of it will be at myfertology.com.